Good morning, children. Welcome back. Today we are going to begin with the new chapter in EVS 1. That is, chapter number 23 Infectious Diseases and How to Prevent Them. We are going to study that how disease can be passed on from one person to another person and how we can take precautions by these diseases. So, let's see which all points we are going to cover in this part of the video. So in this part of the video, we are going to see that what are infectious diseases and which all mediums are there through which these diseases can spread. So there are 5 mediums. That means how these diseases can spread from one person to another person. So it can be through air, through water, through food, or by insects, or by coming a direct contact with the person. Now let's see each point in detail with the explanation. Now just take an example that I given here. Sometimes your mummy gets burned while she is preparing food in the kitchen or with some other things. Or sometimes your grandpa or grandma is having a backache. So all these things are going to be spread from one person to another person. That means if your mother got burned, you will also get a burn if your mother touches you. Or if your grandfather is having an backache, you will also get the same backache. No, that is not been passed on from one person to another person. However, one has to be take care to stay away from people who are ill with the flu, that is influenza, cold, ringworm, scabies, chicken pox. So the ones who are having such diseases or such illnesses, so from these persons we should stay away, because these are the diseases or these are the illnesses that can pass on from one person to another person. These diseases spread from one person to another person, and such diseases are called as infectious diseases. Okay, they are communicable, means they pass on from one person to another person. So what causes these diseases? How these diseases are spreading from one person to another person? So how these infectious diseases are passing from one person to another person? Because of the microorganisms. So every infectious disease is caused by a specific microorganism or the germ. When these germs of a particular disease enter the body and it starts begin to grow, that means when these germs or these small microorganisms enters a person's body who is completely normal, not having any kind of illnesses, but such germs when enter in person's body, then they start growing and the person gets the disease. Slowly and gradually, when the growth takes place in the body, then the person may have fever, cold, cough, or ringworm, scabies, chicken pox, like that way. So how is one person's disease passed on to the another person? How it could be possible? So we have seen in the beginning that these are the mediums or these are the ways through these diseases can spread. Just take an example. If a person is having a cold, that means the germs that are present in his body spread in the air when you sneeze. Okay, so what happens when you sneeze? Along with your nostrils, these germs come out and they spread in the air. And even when you have cough, okay, so when you cough, why it is said to you or why it is suggested to you to cover your nose or to cover your mouth? Why? Because the germs that are present in your body should not spread in the air, and if they're going to spread, then it may go into another person's body. So when these germs enter other people's body, they can also get the same disease. That is why if your friend is having cold, the next day if your immunity level is not strong enough to handle the disease, even you may suffer with the same thing. Or flu, fever. Yes, viral fever. So if you see in a particular season how it is in the rainy season, why there is every time malaria or there is fevers and all that going on, because it is spreading from one person to another person. So that is the way the disease is spread. Typhoid spreads when its germs are passed on by a person who is ill with the typhoid to the another person who is completely normal. That means a person who is ill can pass on his or her disease to another person. And again, the same person may also suffer with the disease what the front person is having. Now we have understood that what is an infectious disease. That means it is passed on from one person to another person. The germs or microorganisms that are present that enters to the person's body, and slowly and gradually when it grows, the person may suffer with that illness. It can be cold, cough, fever and many more. And that is the reason why it is passed on from one person to another person. Now, which are the mediums through these diseases are spreading? So, what are the different ways in which infectious diseases spread? Through air, water, food, insects, or direct contact. Beginning with the first one is spread of disease through air. The germs of disease like influenza, that is flu, or cold and cough along with that. So, a disease like influenza are present in the spit or saliva of a person who has the disease. That is why it is suggested to cover your nose and mouth when you are having cold or cough, so that the germs should not spread in the air. That is a reason why we should not, what disease we are having, we should not give it to the another person. That is the reason why it is said to cover your nose and mouth. So when a person coughs or spits, they enter the air with the tiny droplets of saliva or spit. And when a normal person is breathing in the same air where the germs are spread, so which germs are spread? The germs of influenza, that is flu. So it will enter to the body. And again, what will happen? The person may also suffer with the same disease. That is why it is passed on from one person to another person. So, diseases of the throat and the chest spread through the air. Throat disease, what it will be? You may have cough, you may have cold, and tuberculosis. Again, tuberculosis is a illness or a disease that is passed on from one person to another person, or we can say that it is transmitted from one to another. So, in this also, the person may have cold, then may have cough, and slowly and gradually it reaches to more, and after that a person may starts having fever, and it have different stages. Swine flu, we know what it is, again a high level of fever. So this is passed on from one person to another person. So you might have seen on televisions also that they are showing, if doctors are giving treatment to such patients, they cover their nose, they cover their head and everything, they wear gloves and everything, and that are disposable, so that it should not pass on from one person to another person. That is why we are told whenever we are having cough or whenever we are having cold, so what we should do, we should cover our nose and mouth. And you can take a recent example, what we are facing with, we are facing with COVID. Yes, and what it is suggested that it is also spreadable, and it can pass on from one person to another person. Correct? So what will happen? If it is passing on slowly and gradually, the number may increase, and if 10 are having, they can give it to 20, 50, like that way. And that is why it is suggested to cover your nose and mouth with a mask, and it is must. This safety will help us to save our life. So we should be very careful when we are going out of our home or we are coming in contact with another person. We should have a distance when we are talking to them, and we should cover our nose and mouth in with the mask. Moving on to the next point. Before going for the explanation part for this point, I want to ask you one question. Can you see a slide with different pictures? How many pictures are there? Let's count 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just take a second and think for a bit that what these pictures are telling you. And what all different activities are going on in these pictures? Yes, in the first picture you can see that the cattle are being washed. Means they are being given bath. After that, few people are swimming in the same water. On the other hand, in the third picture, you can see that there is so much dirt in the water and some people are consuming the same water. So, is it preventable to consume such water? Is it healthy? Is it going to not affect our health in future? So, these pictures tells us that if this water is being polluted by these purposes and the same polluted water is being consumed by some people in the villages. So, is it safe or is it harmful? Let's see. So, the germs of diseases of the intestines, like the person who is suffering with typhoid, cholera, diarrhea, or jaundice, are present in the phases in the excreta of that person. And if another person is coming in contact with such person, again the person may suffer with the same disease what the person is having, what the front person is having. So, if the phases get mixed with water, the germs in it also enter the water. That means if these phases, if the spit or saliva, if this enters into the water that is used for drinking purpose or any other purpose, so what will happen? Again, the person may suffer with this disease. Disease such as typhoid, cholera, jaundice, or diarrhea. So, what is this? This is a disease of intestine, and once the person whose intestinal level is weak can get affected with these diseases easily. If another person consumes the same water that is been contaminated by these germs, with germs like typhoid, cholera, jaundice, or diarrhea, so that can enter the person's intestine who is fit and fine. But still, if such person comes in contact with the other person who is suffering with these diseases, can get easily affected. So, to prevent this, to protect ourselves, what is the best solution? What we should do, that we should avoid washing clothes or utensils or bathing in the water sources or defecating on the banks of the river, etc., or the water bodies. So this way what we're going to do, we are going to save the water, and that water can be useful for consuming, though it is not getting affected with any of the pollutants as well as any of the waste. My dear children, in this part of the video we have studied about what are infectious diseases and how they are spreading. We have seen 2 points especially, that is it spreads through air and it spreads through water. So how we can save ourselves with this? That we need to take precautions, and which all precautions we have studied in this video. So here we end up with our video. The next points, that is which are the different mediums through this infectious diseases are spreading, that we're going to study in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Have a good day. Thank you for watching the video.